It's the Brandon Cruz Daily Fantasy Podcast, where I go over low plays and strategies specifically designed for GPPs. This is a show for people already informed in daily fantasy sports, how these contests operate. If you have any question related to NASCAR, is a stupid question, feel free to tweet at me at BrandonCruzDFS. Most importantly, take everything here with a grain of salt and use your best shows for making entries. Additionally, if you have a gambling addiction, that's just not my problem. Check your sense, feel it at the door. We're talking about Homestead in this video here. Hate to say it, but this is the last race of the year, gentlemen. This is the last real race, all right? Martinsville going to be a bit of a snore fest. Phoenix going to be a bit of a snore fest. Okay, so this is it right here. Okay, this is the end of the season. Okay, so when we look at Homestead, I think we're going to see a spitting image of Las Vegas. And the reason why I'm leaning towards that, and if you're a part of the projections, if you're a part of the support on Patreon for Pearce and myself, you'll see the people that I was high on last weekend and kind of why I was high on those guys. I saw this race, and let's take a step back right fast and just take note that we lost a ton of big lap leaders in this race, specifically Bubba Wallace, Ryan Blaney, and Daniel Suarez catching a lot of issues in this race, being taken out of the optimal lineup. This is also one of the first optimal lineups this year that we did not have a 10K guy in the race. It was Chastain, Logano, and then two place differential plays of Truex and Kyle Busch with Justin Haley and AJ Allmendinger in that. Now, when we kind of looked at how I approached it or why I want to do it, and this isn't, a victory lap, I'm explaining why I approached it this way because I'm approaching Homestead the exact same way. I wanted to trust the last three intermediate tracks that we had been to and not really looking at Texas either. I really wanted to focus on the Kansas 2, Darlington 2, those two races specifically, and use Texas as like the third option or third resource when looking at these races. And the reason is because people forget that Las Vegas is a high wear type of racetrack, all right? We have a lot of fall off. Kansas, we have a lot of fall off. Darlington, yes, we have a lot of fall off there, but I think people are going to overreact to, we're going to Homestead. We got to look at Darlington. Who was good at Darlington? I think we can really trust the Las Vegas data and the Kansas 2 data. When we looked at Las Vegas, why did I think that place differential wouldn't come through in terms of gigantic lap leaders? Okay, it came through, and Truex Jr. did end up getting quite a lot of fast laps throughout this race, 8.55 total points, and Kyle Busch with 4.5, but they never got up there. They never pushed into the lead. It was always guys who showed, yes, decent time in practice, but it was guys who had shown us consistent speed between Darlington 2, Kansas 2, and Texas. Okay, now that we're going to Homestead, I'm looking specifically at last weekend's race, Kansas 2 and Darlington 2. The reason being is because we got to remember that there was a month off between a real racetrack. We had the Roval, Talladega, Texas, and Bristol. Can't really take much of that stuff to Las Vegas. And so when we looked at Las Vegas, I wanted to look at it as these teams are going to have a month to build off of what they had shown at the higher wear racetracks, okay? And so when we look at what they were able to build off of, what they were able to take to the races, Darlington 2 and Kansas 2, it would lead us to show that people were going to have quite decent speed, specifically if they could qualify up front. You don't necessarily have to have top 5 speed. You just have to be in a situation to where you can honestly get the lead, either through having a good pit stop, a good pit stall selection, having decent speed. Like if you start top 10, okay, if you start 9th, all right, I don't think you need to display top 3 speed in practice to be able to get the lead, okay? What I want to see is a car that's not going to fall off, is a team that's not going to fall off in a race, that's not going to, regress. As long as you've been somewhat consistent, and specifically talking consistent of you bring the same stuff to these different intermediate tracks. You're not up and down. You're not missing. You're not showing up like super fast one week and then dropping off another week. And these are reasons why I specifically wanted to run with quite a lot of Bubba Wallace last weekend, quite a lot of Daniel Suarez, Joey Logano. I can't believe people really didn't play Joey Logano when he had the best history leading into Las Vegas. Okay, when we look back at how these guys were in terms of speed, it really led to these guys. When we look at kind of where I wanted to go this past weekend, yes, clearly Chastain, but look, Logano, Suarez, kind of missed on Byron, but Reddick was up there as well. As I said, I was overweight on Bubba Wallace. That's all I saw from that instant, okay? That was my personal 35% of Bubba Wallace being taken out in that instance, okay? I want to add to this that yes, Kyle Busch was optimal starting 18th. Yes, Truex Jr. was optimal starting 27th. Hamlin started 31st. And while these guys all gained over 15 points of place differential, let's really take a look at this specifically. When we look at Denny Hamlin, 2.25 fast lap points, 1.25 lap led points. That's terrible. That is not good. Okay, when we look at how they have ran, specifically Hamlin, okay, let's really dive into Hamlin real fast, and we'll kind of get into Las Vegas, or we'll kind of get into how I want to approach Homestead. Hamlin left Darlington 2 with 91 real rating, and I'm not showing anything on the screen because at this point we're at the end of October, and I don't really I can't be showing things on the screen each and every week. Okay, join us, support us. Either way, Hamlin basically had the fourth best car at Darlington 2. When we look at Kansas, 75 real rating. When we look at Texas, 83 real rating, and then Hamlin showed up to Las Vegas and didn't have the fastest times in practice, really missed in qualifying. I think, and clearly by how he performed, he clearly did not pay off the 11-1 price tag, but he was owned. People chose Denny Hamlin over another lap leader, okay? I think that's a situation we're probably going to run in again with Homestead. People are going to think that we need to chase a place differential play. And yes, hindsight, like when we look at the optimal, it was Chastain, Logano, 2 place differential plays at Truex and Kyle Busch with Haley and AJ on there. 2 place differential plays came through. I still don't like chasing that way. I built with a ton of lines that had a ton of people starting inside the top 12. I think the value plays, and I think it's going to be that way this weekend, and I'll get into that, is going to be pretty limited. And if we see, gross mispricing like AJ Allmendinger and Justin Haley, I think a lot of things pointed to you should have had a lot of them. I was very shocked by ownership this past weekend. When we look at Martin Truex Jr., and we see what he brought at Darlington 2, 83 real rating, 78 at Kansas, and then the 63 at Texas, 8.55 fast laps. Good to see, but I think these are all disappointments, man. Even from Kyle Busch, less than 5 points with fast laps. That's with 4.95 fast laps. Okay, the reason why I'm saying this type of stuff is because I didn't see them being able to back up the speed that they had shown at previous intermediate tracks here at Las Vegas, based on where they were starting and based on what they had shown in practice. It's not necessarily, they're super slow in practice, let's absolutely fade them. But this is a situation where they should have arrived at Las Vegas with much faster cars, specifically relative to the people who were starting up front. Okay, we had Blaney, who was blazingly fast, okay, probably had the best car. Same thing with Logano. Same thing with Cindric. We saw Penske be able to take the month off between the intermediate tracks. I know we went to Texas, but I don't really necessarily count that specifically when we're looking at Vegas and when we're looking at Homestead. We saw Penske able to improve what they're bringing to the intermediate tracks. We're able to see that Trackhouse was able to upgrade what they were bringing to the intermediate tracks. It's not necessarily them bringing new parts and stuff, but it's them understanding what they can push more with the setup, and specifically on a track that you can move around in, okay? People don't want to say it, but Las Vegas and Darlington and Homestead race very, very similar. I want to point you to Noah Gragson. I projected Noah to finish 12th. He finished 11th. The reason why this is interesting, okay, and this is a situation where I wanted to play a little bit of Noah Gragson at Las Vegas, because Noah Gragson is a very, very talented driver. When we look at how he runs that high side, okay, yes, we can see him do that specifically well in Xfinity. But this is a brand new car. This is a new system that he is not used to, with the 6-speed transmission, sequential shifter, how these cars react in dirty air. This should have been a race that Noah Gragson struggled in. And the reason I say that is because based on what people do when they jump into these cars, he shouldn't do well. Okay, I gave him 12. He finished 11th. The reason why I'm pointing this out is because Noah Gragson took a bit of an increase this weekend at $8,100. I think this is a race where he can pay that off, because when we look at how he ran at Atlanta, Pocono, Michigan, Richmond, Daytona, these are races that aren't necessarily leaning towards him and how his style is. Yes, he didn't perform that well at Kansas too, but that was his real first taste of what this car can actually do when he's at a racetrack that can lean into to how he drives. He finished 18th in that race. This should show you that Gragson is going to race very well this weekend at Homestead, okay? Just wanted to point that out. I know I'm kind of going through. I got a lot of notes that I want to cover in this one, so I apologize for the time. Let me go ahead and move into this and move into my main point. As I did last weekend, and I talked about people that I want to, or have an idea of where I want to play them, that really did look very similar to the starting grid. Okay, we had Reddick up front, we had William Byron up front, we had Chastain just barely missing the or qualifying into the first grid. And really it's the same thing here. And so specifically, I'm looking at Darlington 2, Kansas 2, and Las Vegas this previous week to determine the guys that I think we should prioritize and focus on. And we're going to see a lot of similar names here. Okay, Logano, by far the best car entering. This is also why I'm very shocked by the salaries here. Okay, I understand Reddick is very talented. Okay, he is very good. He's going to run the high side, all right. But last weekend was a true example to where Reddick disappointed. Reddick absolutely disappointed in dirty air. Yes, he led right off the bat. Yes, he got 8 lap lead points and 6.75 fast lap points. But Reddick should have absolutely ran better than he should have. That's an absolute disappointment. And that concerns me with Reddick going to Homestead in a track that, as I said, I think is going to race very, very similar. I don't think we need to... I think focusing on Darlington 2 is not an overreaction, but I think the wrong way to go about it here. Joey Logano, in my opinion, has the best car entering this weekend. Joey Logano should be the most expensive driver. He is not. So we get Logano for a second week in a row at a gigantic discount. Specifically, when we look at how well he ran, okay, and let's look at the amount of laps that these guys ran in terms of top 5 and top 10 and things like that. And this is very telling. Logano ran 98% of his laps in the top 10, 85% in the top 5. That is fantastic to see, specifically when he wasn't necessarily in clean air the entire time. The leader would normally pull away, whoever the leader was, but Logano was always there in the top 5. Didn't show really any issues. Was able to improve throughout the race, and specifically on restarts on the short run. That's where Logano was really killing people. We can see that specifically in the last restart of the race, and we can see that specifically whenever we would go into restarts. Logano was almost always starting like 7th. Okay, so let's just kind of go through these here. So coming out of the stage 1, or leaving stage 1. Lap 86, he's in 4th place, drives up to 3rd, we end up having yellow. When we look at his restart on lap 107, out of the 3rd yellow of the race, he's starting 6th. He's able to drive up to 2nd on the long... Actually, yes, he does on the long run, but he goes from 6th to 2nd in... What is that? That's 20 laps, which is a short run in my opinion. I'm not looking at short runs in terms of like 5. And this is specifically racing against the toughest of the people up there. Goes from 6th to 2nd between lap 108 and 133, okay? Takes lead in the second stage. I want to look at these restarts specifically. Lap 199, Logano starts in 8th. He drives up to 3rd from 199 to 223 or 226. We get another restart on the lap 251. He starts 8th. He's able to drive up and win the race in those finishing laps. And so why am I focusing on this so much? 85% of his laps in the top 5. Had the best rating of anyone in Las Vegas. Had the best car by far. When we look specifically at Kansas 2 and Darlington 2, we see this exact thing happen again. Okay, when we look at Las Vegas... not Las Vegas. When we look at Kansas, I'll bring this stuff open. When we look at Kansas and how Logano ran at Kansas, find this. Where is Joseph Logano at? Yeah, so check this out. 76% of his laps in... Right, that's him, right? Logano ran 76% of his laps in in the top 10 at Darlington, the latest Darlington race, not the one in the spring. 38% of his laps in the top 5. That's good to see. Like, look, Darlington's a one-groove racetrack. The fact that he's able to maintain that, and the fact that Logano ended up finishing towards the rear of the field, and actually got trapped lap down, ran into some issues, and finished 17th, might lead people to not believe he had a good time at Kansas, too. You know, when we look at Darlington, it's kind of the same story of how well Joseph has been. You know, the fact that he finished poorly at Kansas, too, is the outlier. When we look at Joseph Logano and how he ran at Darlington, 99% of his laps in the top 15, 79% of his laps in the top 10, and 39% of his laps in the top 5 at Darlington. I think I was misspeaking when I was talking about Kansas a minute ago. But Joseph, fantastic real rating. Finished 4th at Darlington. And this is a situation where Logano has the best car. Okay, why am I talking about William Byron so much these past 2 weeks? And yes, William Byron certainly disappointed. He did not show what I thought he would at this race. Now, granted, he ended up losing 10 positions late in the race. Ends up finishing with 20.9 DraftKings points. But why do I have William Byron ranked as the second best guy entering this weekend at Homestead? Well, let's take a look back at how he's ran at Las Vegas, and this will... Where are we at? Actually, that's all right. I need to go from Darlington forward. That's just easier for me. I keep getting mixed up like that. So William Byron, Darlington 2, 71% of his laps in the top 5, 81% top 10, 100% in the top 15. You know, and these are guys that you're not necessarily prioritizing, but are consistently showing speed. When we look at Kansas 2, okay, 59% of his laps top 5, 68% of his laps in the top 10, 95% of his laps in the top 15. William Byron is there. Even when we look at Las Vegas from this previous weekend, okay, yes, he didn't like go through the field and blow people away like he thought he would, but still 90% of his laps in the top 10, 25% of his laps in the top 5. You know what that is? That is one pit stop away from getting the lead. That's a 2-tire call. That is strategy playing into, like, you can't just win these races without putting yourself in position. William Byron is putting himself in position to be there. If we're seeing consistent top 10 speeds, you just need a little bit, okay? So we have determined that Darlington 2, Kansas 2, and Las Vegas, Byron is going to have a top 5 car entering this week at Homestead, okay? So I'm expecting him to do that in the race regardless of what happens in practice. The reason I say that is because we can project William Byron to like easily finish like 8th or 9th, okay? The difference that'll move him up or down is based on how close or how far away from the top of the scoring pylon he is in practice, okay? So if he arrives off that trailer and shows us like 7th, 6th, 5th in terms of speed, we can identify William Byron as somebody who, with Rudy Fugle on the pit box, being able to play strategy, being able to play tire strategy or something, and get the lead at some point. Start outside the top, 2 rows at some point, anything, just something to get us there that people aren't going to be there. And specifically, the reason why I'm talking about these guys is because these guys are not the most expensive people in this race. We're talking about Joey Logano at $9,800. We're talking about William Byron at $9,200, and those are the 2 best guys that I see entering this weekend. Okay, I'm going to try and go a bit faster, and I'm kind of taking forever here, but we're 20 minutes in. Denny Hamlin next, based on these 3 races. Then it's Ryan Blaney. Okay, so we got Logano, Byron, Hamlin, Blaney, Chastain, your top 5 drivers entering this week based on Darlington 2, Kansas 2, and Las Vegas 2 of this year. I believe that pricing should reflect this. If you're noticing, it's not, okay? Yes, Hamlin is 10.6, but everybody else I have mentioned, Logano, Blaney, Chastain, Byron, all in the 9K range. Okay, when we look at how I wanted to build lines at Las Vegas, here, I'll show you this real fast. These are how I built lines. And I want to build them the same way this week, okay? So, let me kind of boop this back. This is how I built lines. Well, these are the lines that I ran. But look how, and I don't even think it's aggressive, okay? But look how many people I am starting up front, okay? Look at the people I went to in the back. AJ, Eric, Almirola, Martin Truex Jr., Haley. I did have a Cody Ware. I had some Ty Gillen. I had some Ty Dillon. But where majority of my place differential play is coming from, it's Haley, it's AJ, it's Eric Jones, it's Eric Almirola. These are the people showing speeds. I didn't really necessarily see any other reason to go to other people. But Chastain is right there. Bubba Wallace is right there. Suarez, Logano, Blaney, Byron. A little bit higher on Reddick. That was a mistake that I made there. I should not have been that high on Reddick, and I'm going to lean to having less Reddick here. Okay, I don't necessarily want to be in that situation again where I probably had too much Reddick. I thought he'd be faster. That's why I said it was a disappointment from Tyler Reddick. He should have ran better. But I think this is how we want to approach it. A lot of my lines had 3 to 4 guys in the top 10. Okay, when we're entering Homestead, I think it's going to be very similar because, look, yes, we're going to have passing, but you need to have speed to pass, okay? If you don't have speed, you're not going to be passing through the field, all right? So our top 5 right now is Logano, Byron, Hamlin, Blaney, Chastain. Rounding out the top 10 entering this race for me is Truex, Bell, Kyle Busch, Tyler Reddick, and Daniel Suarez. Okay, so I have Tyler Reddick as the 9th best driver entering this race, where DraftKings has him as the most expensive. So that, for me, that's saying I'm looking at stuff completely different from what the price is leaning towards. I'm going to assume that I'm looking at stuff completely different from how people want to be, or from what people want to look at. Okay, this isn't saying Tyler Reddick is a washed, driver. I have him ranked 9th, okay? What am I going to project Reddick for? Probably like a 6th to 5th place finish, but when we are splitting hairs, when we are looking for lap leaders and fast lap getters, Reddick is worrying me, okay? He should have ran better at Las Vegas. This is a 1-week turnaround. You were taking the same, not the same car, but you're taking a lot of the same setup points that you sent to Las Vegas to Darlington. You're not going to make gigantic changes overnight, over like the 2 days that you have your stuff at the shop, because for the most part you already have your car that you're taking to Las Vegas and Homestead already prepared. Okay, I don't see a lot of changes being made from Reddick to bump him up to that guy who's going to lead a ton of these races or lead a ton of these laps this weekend at Homestead. When we look at the rest of the field, I have Daniel Suarez as 10th. Okay, last week the practice speed alone showed me that Suarez can get there. Okay, we can't project Suarez to go out there and lead laps like we did last weekend, but what I looked at is a guy who is going to be able to take advantage of green flag pit stops, of pit road, of strategy, and put himself in the lead. Okay, that's more so how I go about this, is who is going to be a top 5 guy in speed who can get there on a pit stop, who can get there on strategy. That's really what we're leaning towards, and Suarez is checking that box for me. He is the cheapest driver up here, and he is on my stuff ranked 10th at $8,300. I'm going to do the same thing as I did last week and play some Daniel Suarez if he can start in the top 10. Okay, Austin Cindric, a bit of a miss for me. He's ranked number 11th right now entering this week. Eric Jones, 12th. AJ Allmendinger, 13th. Michael McDowell, 14th. Kyle Larson, 15th. These are your top 15 guys, okay? Who was good last week? This isn't just based off of Las Vegas, okay? This is based off of Kansas and Darlington, okay? Well, with AJ, it's based on other races that we've seen and the practice that they're bringing. Specifically with Kaulig, it seems to me that if Kaulig can actually bring pretty fast cars in practice for the Cup Series, they're probably going to have really good cars, all right? We have seen slow but progressive speed increases for Haley throughout the entire time he's been here, okay? So continuing on, I have Larson at 15th, Eric Almirola 16th, Justin Haley 17th, Austin Dillon 18th, and Harvick 20th. Why am I kind of stopping there, and why am I focusing on these guys so much? Because I don't necessarily want to chase the place differential of a Kevin Harvick that I think we're going to see again. Chase Elliott. I know on Twitter we're seeing a lot about, I think Chase Elliott he had a ridiculous opening money line to win the race. I think that's a bad bet. Man, I really do. I don't see Chase Elliott contending for this win. I don't see Chase Elliott contending for anything here. Okay, he is ranked incredibly low on my model here of what I want to do. Um, you know, at that point we're not really considering other people. Like we're not going out of our way to play Custer, play Gibbs. We're seeing a decrease in speed that Chris Buescher has dealt with, and this is a situation where, hang on, let me go to Chris Buescher here. Chris Buescher has struggled. He's this team, and we're seeing that. Yeah, some of it has been luck, and we're seeing Brad show some speed. But in terms of what we opened the year with Buescher being, a consistent top 15 car, and now we're not seeing that type of stuff. Okay, Darlington got involved in a wreck. Can't really fault him there. But 16th best car, the 16th best car at Kansas, we were seeing that number a bit higher earlier in the year. That's concerning. When we look at Las Vegas, he was the 22nd best car. This situation where I don't think Buescher is going to show up to this track and be incredibly quick off the trailer. Okay, so when I'm looking at people I want to target, I like the 9K range this weekend. Really, the only 10K guy that I like right now is Ryan Blaney. But it's Logano, Byron, Blaney, Chastain, probably Truex, because he'll be 94. Suarez, Jones, Eric Almirola, Justin Haley. These are the people that are popping off for me that I think we should consider playing. And when we look at how I built lines last weekend, I'm going to build them in a very similar fashion to have a lot of guys who I think can lead fast laps and laps led. We also need to remember that fast laps are going to be siphoned in this race. Okay, if anybody loses a tire in terms of get a flat tire under green and we do not get a yellow, or somebody short pits, whatever the case is, that is going to siphon off fast laps from the leader. I do not expect fast laps in this race to come from the lead position. It is going to be coming from multiple drivers in this race. So you either have a fresh coat of tire, or you either have fresh tires under green and everybody else is on a long run, or you're some of the first to come down pit road, okay? That always leans to Martin Truex Jr. I love that Truex Jr. is one of the first people who comes down pit road. I like the fact that Chastain is going to be doing that. I like the fact that Suarez is going to be a bit off sequence, either staying out a little bit later to get laps led or pitting a little bit earlier to get fast laps. That is important for us in daily fantasy, okay? Logano is going to be competing for the win. Byron's going to be competing for the win. Blaney's going to be competing for the win. I think this is a race where we can see a lot of fast laps being distributed between the top 10 running positions, okay? So for me, in my opinion, it is not just nailing the primary lap leader. That's why I like the 9K range. When I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of my top 10 guys here in the 9K range, and knowing that I can make a lineup with those types of drivers, I like that. I really do. I think Eric Jones has a really good chance of showing a lot of speed in this race, starting inside the top 12. I think Eric Jones should be a priority in this race. Yes, we want to, focus on Larson if he's fast. Yes, we want to focus on Denny Hamlin if he's showing speed. But this is a race to where I want 4 guys in my line who I know are going to get fast laps in this race, okay? Because we can project that way easier than who's going to be leading at a certain point. We can project who's going to lead like kind of the first stage, but once strategy gets involved, and once people start short pitting, once people start going, like once we start dealing with pit strategies and stuff, guessing who's going to be the lead at that point is really up in the air. But if we can target guys who are going to get fast laps and have good pit stall selections, that's how we fall into a leader. Like last week, that's really what got me on a Daniel Suarez that nobody really owned, on a Bubba Wallace that nobody really owned, okay? They showed signs of people who could get fast laps, who just need that little push to get the lead, okay? I'm chasing people like that for fast laps. If they get lap led, or if they get laps led, then that's just a bonus, okay? But for me, Logano, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Chastain, Truex, Bell, Kyle Busch, Reddick, Suarez, Cindric, Jones, my top 12 guys, the main guys I'm going to be targeting this week and building lineups with. So hopefully that helps you out. Maybe that gives you a little idea. So if I would be very hesitant on just focusing on Darlington too. Okay, I think we can learn a ton from this previous race at Las Vegas. And Logano's my favorite guy. Okay, Logano is absolutely my favorite guy. If people don't want to play him again, by all means, keep chasing Larson. And yes, I've been on the Toyotas all year, but when I'm seeing data that other teams are catching, like if Toyota has been up here the whole year, it's not that they're falling down, okay? It's not that they've like fallen off a cliff. They're right here for the majority of the season. All the other teams have been here. We're slowly seeing them get closer. And specifically at this point in the year, we're in October, the gigantic difference in speed that Toyota had between the rest of the field is gone, okay? At this point, most of the teams know what they have. Most teams know what they can do to improve these cars. We're not going to see a lot of like gigantic just breakaways from teams anymore. Okay, the field, yes, the next gen car is even, but at this point we're kind of all caught up, and there's no place to really go at this point. Okay, so I think Penske is up there, is right up there with Joe Gibbs, and I think Penske as a whole is better than Toyota right now. Okay, so Logano and Blaney, I think that's a fantastic way to start a line this weekend. I would look at them in practice to see what they're going to do. Practice is going to be so much fun watching them this week or this weekend, because we're going to be able to tell who has speed right off the bat and who doesn't. Okay, you cannot fake speed at this racetrack. If you're either going to be fast or slow. That's why I don't want to play value plays. And yes, we can have people blow tires, and yes, we can get stum and stuff like that. But the value plays, the people that are going to be starting in the 20s and 30s, look at their practice speed, okay? If they're not showing stuff that they can realistically gain like 8 positions, I don't really want to mess with them, okay? And this is a race to where if things are looking ugly and we got some landlocking going on in the 20s and 30s, we might just be either sticking with the Collie cars if they end up qualifying poorly, because I think they will again, and I think they'll be able to move through the field, or just go into the 5K range, okay? When we look at this area right here, JJ Yaley, $4,500, I think that's a misprice, okay? BJ, 46, Cody Ware, 47, I think that's a bit of a misprice. We're seeing that Todd Gillen is the 32nd ranked driver. Todd Gillen has been horrible. Darlington 2, Kansas 2, Las Vegas 2. I think he is much better at the intermediates that don't have a lot of lanes to go through, that don't have high tire wear. Okay, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., ranked 30th. Horrible Darlington 2. Horrible Kansas 2. Horrible this week in Las Vegas. I got to X Stenhouse out. Earlier in the year, we could see that the intermediates were the place to play Stenhouse. Not anymore. I don't want to play Harrison Burton. I don't want to play LaJoy. I don't want to play Chris Buescher. I don't want to play Cole Custer. I don't want to play Chase Briscoe. I don't want to play Chase Elliott. These are the guys that are showing that it's showing me that they're just, I don't think they're worth playing. I don't think they're worth chasing. I will be live this weekend for both days, Saturday and Sunday, so catch me there. If you're part of the Discord, ask me a question if you're curious about anything, and if not, hopefully this helps you out, and I will see you guys in the Xfinity and Truck Series preview videos, so I'll see you then.